space that surrounds him. Take it all in. Breathe. Forever be. Forever.
Hey, welcome to the UnSung podcast. I'm your host, Blake Quimby. Glad you're with us today. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, go to these platforms, click subscribe, follow. Hey, we're on all platforms now. We're pretty big time at this point in juncture. So make sure that you go and you subscribe, you follow us. We'd love to have you along as we interview those lifting the limelight in their area. So today we have another just amazing guest. He's a husband, a father. He's a live engineer. Dude, amazing, right? Studio, this guy knows a lot about a lot. And I have a special surprise. I will talk about it later. But I don't want to get too far ahead again. But I don't want to get you too excited because I'm pretty excited about our guest today. Please welcome my friend and now yours, Mr. Matt Rogers.
I like that sound effect.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, that little ding is kind of cute. I like that.
Yes, it's a Glocken. How would you say it if you're German?
Glockenspiel?
That-
Maybe?
I
don't know.
I think we'll allow that. We will allow that. So
Blowing my ear. You're blowing these sensitive ears out, man.
Oh, I know those sensitive ears. The horses are happy you're here with us today. If you can't, do you see those horses back there just singing your praises?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The mane on that one looks amazing.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
Do you have a horse in the backyard?
I do not, but a South African painted that for me, and it's one of my favorite paintings.
It's one of my favorite countries I've ever been to.
Now, have you been? You've been to South Africa?
Yeah, I did a gig in how do they pronounce it? Johannesburg? Yeah.
Johannesburg.
Yeah.
How many moons was that ago? How long ago?
See, that would have been 2000 and man, they all run together. Probably 2015, 16, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It was right before I left. Yeah.
Okay, see. So you live in Oklahoma currently with your amazing wife and children.
Correct.
Look at this beautiful family. They are a doll of a family. Look at that dog. That dog's like squirrel. Squirrel.
That's exactly what he was looking at. Yeah.
How old are your kids?
Clara, my daughter, is 11, and my son Everett is 8, and I'm 38.
Man, you're getting up there, buddy.
I am. We're gonna be 40 here soon.
That's true. Yeah, you. And
like
Megan
I'm a real life
yep.
adult.
Well, that's true. You are.
Yeah.
And a handsome one at that. I'm going to say that out right now. I probably won't say it enough, but yeah, I'm just saying. Look at those glasses.
I think I'm just gonna do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you look so intimidating. At that.
Well, that
point.
glare is distracting. I don't know if it is for the viewers, but.
Well, I think they're just happy that you're here. You know, that's the thing. Just being.
Well, I'm
here.
happy to be here. Do you see that, dude?
What was that?
That moth just hit me in the face.
You guys,
dude, we live in 800 square. Yeah, we live in 800 square feet right now. Oh yeah, man! That thing just hit me right in the side of the eye.
Oh man, it's happy. See, the moths are happy that you're here. Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
So how long have you and Megan been married?
We have been married 15 years. We got married November 17th of 2007.
Well, you know what? I did not realize that because we were 08. Y'all are 07, 08, and we're about to hit 15. You guys are rounding the corner.
Yep.
About to hit 16.
Yep.
That's awesome. You and I met. Now we've had a long journey together. It's been a real I guess you would say our friendship was born out of awkward time in our lives. We were
I would
20s.
say it was forced, a forced friendship, but it's one of the best things that's ever happened in my life. I actually wasn't even 20. I was 19 years old when I moved to Fort Bend County.
That's right. Fort Bend County, land of the sugar, right?
That's right, land of the sugar. I think the first week we were there, you gave me a tour of the sugar plant.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah, yeah, you took me over down there and you said, "Hey, look, that's where they make sugar." And I went, "Cool." And then we went back to the apartment.
So this is what happened for everyone watching today. I was interning in a church, and Matt was coming down from Oklahoma to intern at said church because he was with the youth guy, the new youth guy coming down, and so I remember they were like, hey, they don't have a place to stay. You have some. Are you interested in having like two more roommates? I mean, at the time, I was just kind of like, I don't. I mean, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he
Until I
likes
showed up with
music.
bunk beds.
Fuck it.
There's 3 of us in one room. Jeez.
Man, it was something else. You guys got the bunk beds. You moved in, and the rest is really history, right? I mean, we've had some good
Yeah.
years. We've had some tough years, but
Yeah.
that was what year was that? You're gonna have to help me because I'm really bad at
I
math.
moved down February 28th of 2004.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 2004. So we're get out of here, man. We're coming up
Yeah,
on 20 years or no?
yeah, our friend that was with us texted me the other day and he said, "You realize it's been 20 years since we moved down here?" He still lives down there, but
Right.
uh yeah, I was like, wow, man, that seems ages ago. I mean, I had just graduated high school in May of '03,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some things in my personal life with family that I stayed, and then I was teaching video editing in a current events class at the high school when the youth pastor was like, "Hey, we're going down and we're gonna, you know, do the same thing." He was my student minister all through from 6th grade all the way through my senior year. And he was like, "Man, we're gonna go down to Sugarland and build the same thing." And I was like, "Cool." And we get down there and we did it.
Well,
So
and the
I
cool
came down
thing.
as
No, go ahead.
yeah, I came down as an intern um, to do build a technology team of students. Which I mean, I gained friends out of that I still talk to, and one of them had no idea he could do lighting as a profession, and he went on to tour with headline acts. Sadly, he passed this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, we had it was a good time. There were some ups and downs while we were there, but
Yeah.
I met
Like
you, and
like
that's all
any
that
like any
matters.
true love story, right? Like any true love
That's
story.
right.
Up and
That's right.
down, mad, happy, sad, whatever. And we're on the other end, better for it, man. The cool thing I thought when you came down, I remember we had a lot of talks, a lot of late night talks, just hanging out. And you're like, yeah, man. One time the high school, your high school youth group or whatever, y'all like put on a thing with Delirious. Like y'all brought them in, y'all did
Yeah.
like y'all pretty much did everything, got them in, and it was like
Correct.
this big show, and it was a pretty successful event, and I think that you really just that inspired you somehow, right? I mean, that was a pretty big
Right.
deal in your life.
Well, and actually, the kind of story behind it was the youth pastor. Some of the interns there were like, "Hey, we want to do a huge Christian music festival. And he said, before you do that, I want you to get the first one was Rebecca St. James, like 16-year-old Rebecca St. James,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
Delirious. Um,
Wow.
I'm sure he was thinking, there's no way they're going to get Delirious. And it just so happened that Delirious was doing a six dates in the States
Wow.
around the time that we were wanting to do the show. And uh, they were going, I don't know where they were coming from, but I think they were going to Lubbock. And they said, heck yeah, we'll stop in and do a date for you. And I, I think we filled the auditorium at the high school, which was, I think, over 2,000. Um, yeah, no, and that I had gotten my start in sound with, and this is where I think it really begins is that mentor kind of taking you under their wing and seeing a young person that has um, just an interest in what they're doing. Um, I met the guy that was running sound at our church, ran sound for a really kind of popular local band, and he took me under his wing, and it's like an addiction to me. I can read and talk audio all day long.
Yeah.
Um, what was really cool is when I came back from Houston, I then went to school and started working at a production company in town and learned about like end fire cardioid subarrays. And I started explaining this to me, and he goes, I have succeeded. The student is now teaching the master. Um, so
Because
that was
you
fun.
were you went to I mean you went to school in Nashville, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to SAE Institute of Technology. Got a what's it called, an audio technology diploma, but it's not a diploma. It's like you pay $20,000 to get a piece of paper that you went to their school.
Right. Right. Right.
But what you learn in this industry is that a production company would rather have a learning spirit rather than someone who's gone to school and knows about gear. Like a production company is going to teach you how they want you to do it,
Hmm.
um, how they want their shows to sound, look, and feel. And uh, yeah, it was a great learning, well, great networking opportunity. I mean, I still keep my lab partner. I was on the phone with him this last week, and coming up in June, I'm flying out there. He's built I think it's over a 2,000 square foot studio, and I'm flying out there to mix a music video in June. So yeah.
What made you fall in love with just you know sound in general?
What
Like, what was it for you?
for me, it was the real. It was um, the manipulation of what I can do. I mean, granted, the very first console I was ever on, I don't even remember the model number, but it was a PV, and it has these like really wide faders, like that wide. Like there's a first console I ever touched, and then they upgraded to a Soundcraft Spirit Live, and then they went to the Mackie 32 channel.
Hmm.
And the guy that was teaching me owned a Mackie 40 channel, and I was just in awe of this large format. Like now, I can do more in a like Behringer XR18 Wi-Fi enabled than I could ever on that.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, it just when you think you know everything, something new comes out, or
Hmm.
some discovery on the psychoacoustics of how line array works. I follow like Dave Rat. The guy's been doing Coachella since 2001.
Hmm.
It's been the Chili Peppers, and it's simple things like um, when he mixes live, he doesn't put the console directly in front of him. He
Hmm.
puts it on the side, and he does that because he said, I can't feel it's a barricade between me and the audience and the stage. And it's just those little things that it is. I'll never forget the first time, and it's something you chase as an audio engineer. I think is this feeling of that's it, like that's what this is supposed to sound like,
Right. Right.
and uh, a mix is never finished. Um, and that's why I prefer live over studio, because in the live world you've got to get it right. You got to do your best to get it right. There's
Hmm.
always going to be something that you can listen back or think through the mix and go, I should probably have done that or not done this. Or but it was the ability, honestly, to affect the mood of a room.
Mm.
And I can't remember where I read the article, but it was an article about especially in churches, pastors get concerned about low end in the church.
Right.
But actually, what can happen is the lay person doesn't know how to explain that, hey, something's off here. I don't know what it is, but something's off. And the goal is to not be a distraction in service. And so the church I'm going to now, um, I'm kind of working them through this, that like, hey, like low wind affects emotion. It's science. Like we know that the air pressure hitting your body is affecting emotions.
Hey, hey,
And to me,
how
it's a
how
fascinating.
it is a fascinating thing, Matt. How do you feel the repercussion is that when you're teaching, when you're talking about that to just common people, that even in the church, but just anywhere, what's the response that you get with just conversations like that? Because I
The
could probably feel you could probably go deep into the woods with it, but how do you keep it so simple for them to understand?
especially I let them hear the difference.
Yeah,
I will say, hey, let me mix a couple of services. Um, and I'm very mindful. I think their biggest fear is loudness, um, perceived loudness.
right.
Um, well, when you have, typically in most churches, pastors sit on the front row. Well, in a well-designed system, those are going to be hot spots for subs, right? So they feel like they're just getting beat with low end, but when you move back into the room and it's full, and you, it's a delicate balance. Um, but once you show them, like, hey, this just sounds more natural. I don't know how to describe it other than it sounds more natural. It's like
Yeah,
going into your car and cutting the low end by 6 dB. You're going to go, man, something doesn't sound right here. Most people can pick up on that, right? When when I approach them, it's from a place of service and not the know-it-all, and it's touchy. It's really
sure.
touchy,
Yeah.
especially when they've got a volunteer that's been doing it for 10 years, every Sunday, every week, and you come in and say, hey man, um, here are some things that
Well, hey, also, I mean, just in church, and I know we did talk too much about it, but just in that atmosphere, that venue, it's like it's the sacred cow.
it is
you know,
um,
no one can
you
tell
know
me what to do. I know how to do it. I've been doing it. I've been here for 20 years, and I
right.
know.
Well, and I've even run into it as being the guy mixing,
Sure.
and I get a, hey, you need to stay under 82 dB.
Mm,
And when they tell me that, the first question I ask is, do you want that to be A weighted or C weighted? And they look at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, those are two different measurements.
sure.
C weighted takes into account the low end, and A weighted is what OSHA uses for noise exposure. Which one do you want me to follow? I'll follow it. Um, but just so you know, your stage volume is already hitting 86 without the PA on. So,
And you know what? I was talking with a buddy of mine this week, and we were talking about. just having a sound guy. I don't think I've had a maybe even legit sound guy since we did camp together those many years ago.
Wow.
So like even in the churches we've been at, different places, it's and we this week while we're discussing this, we both came to the conclusion that having someone like that is a rare find. Like there's
Yeah.
not going to be many people like you or like a few other, and it's very rare that you're going to find someone with the knowledge to teach or the knowledge to not even get into arguments. It's not about the arguments. It's about
No.
just learning how to approach um, event sound, venue sound, content, whatever you're doing in the right posture, in the right way. And so, I don't want to harp too hard on the churches, but
Oh no,
that's where
it's
the most
even
discussion comes from. Like a lot of disagreement comes from because they've never been taught in a good way how to approach live music correctly. You know what I'm saying?
right.
And there's
And
very
exactly.
rare you find someone that can.
Well, and now with YouTube, uh, you know, all the different social media platforms. I mean, I didn't have that when I
Yeah,
was coming up.
sure.
Uh, I mean, what I think when was YouTube released? 2007, maybe. So,
Yeah.
from 90, well, I would 96, 98, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to the library and trying to find Yamaha's sound reinforcement handbook and just reading over. In fact, that was the joke at the church was, um, what what is Matt doing if he's not running sound? He's reading sound manuals. Like I would, dude, we had an old uh, SPX 90 delay unit, and I would read through that thing. I'd read through what a compressor does, and
Mm,
I found ways on how to explain what something is doing in a way that is easier for someone to understand. Like a compressor can be daunting if you have no idea what it's doing.
sure.
And so, like, the way I explain it to folks that I'm training is a compressor is your mom telling you to turn the music down, or and the threshold is at what point do you start to turn it down. The attack is how fast you reach for the knob to turn it down, and the release is how fast you then turn it back up.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
like
awesome.
I had a guy at one of my teachers at school that gave that analogy, and it's just one of those things. The biggest pitfall I see is gain staging. The
Right, correct.
gain
Yep.
a lot of a lot of guys that are from the analog world come into the digital world, and it's two different gain stagings. It's uh, and so when you come up to a console, I can tell immediately if someone knows how to gain stage properly. If I come up to a console and I've got faders all the way close to the bottom, well, that's a logarithmic scale, and if I'm wanting to make 2-3 dB moves, well, down there you're making like 15 dB moves in half a millimeter, and so you can then look at the meters and see that the gain is just pegging,
Mm.
like, hey, does it need a pad, that kind of stuff. But anyway,
Well, and
like I said, I could talk about this stuff for hours.
well, yeah, and I want to know. I want everyone to know the reason why he's talking about all this stuff. First of all, he's a great teacher, but also is because he's the king of country, everybody. And I want you to know that when you're listening today, you are listening to the king of country, and take what
Oh
he
man,
says, take it like a
the,
muffin, and just eat it. Just take
the
it,
king of
and
country.
and you just you take it and you just remember it. You put it to use, because what
You
the
know
king of
what's
country says, it goes.
what's
Okay,
what's funny about that? So that came up in what 2005. I don't even, what restaurant were we at?
man. We were at
It was with
Chili's.
Michael Cash. It was
Without
with
the great,
Chili's at Michael Cash.
yeah, yeah.
And it was the first time I'd ever met Michael. And you said, I want to introduce you to my friend Matt. And I said, hi, my name's Matt and I'm the king of country. And like that just stuck. So when I started school in Nashville, they start going around the room, uh, and I used that line. I said, my name's Matt and I'm the king of country. And my instructor is, you can look him up. His name was Alan. I think he's still with us. Alan Shacklock. He's this short, like 5'2", maybe. Um, and he's British, and he walks in and says, I'm the spinal column of hip hop. And we're all like, what? You're the spinal column of hip hop. And come to find out, after you research him, there was a Sugar Ray song called I Just Want to Fly.
There you go.
The beginning acoustic guitar part was a sample off of one of his records back in the 70s or maybe early 80s,
Wow.
with a band called Babe Ruth. And he sued R. Kelly for it and won. And so he calls himself the spinal of hip hop.
Well, I'm just saying
Because
that.
R. Kelly had sampled him,
Yeah.
Sugar
Well, R.
Ray, all
Kelly's
these
in jail
guys.
right now. He just got put in prison.
Well,
So
yeah,
he's, but you're the king of country, and we salute you right here from the great state of Texas to Oklahoma.
yeah,
Everybody
that's
better
great.
do that. If you're listening, you better just salute the king of country. when you
Just
see him.
salute. Yeah.
So you have a lot of knowledge. You love. It seems like, I mean, every time we talk, it's like, Blake, you're doing this. You got to do this, and you have a great way of teaching. And I know that that's something. It seems like that's a passion of yours, and so I think that's a need in this time. But I want to kind of ask you a couple of things about just like, you've worked with artists, you've worked with some local artists, and you've been able to do events and do different things.
Mm.
Is there anyone that you would love to just be like, hey, listen, let me do one, like, let me come to your festival and do one set for you?
Ooh,
Is there anybody that you would
man.
love to do that, like to run, to run their thing?
Dude, that's so tough.
Okay,
Um,
give me like your top three. Could you do top three? Anybody?
mm, Gary Clark Jr.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, shoot, and that's the thing, man. I listen to so much different stuff that I really like,
Well, you got
because
one down.
I believe all music deserves at least one listen. You may
There
not
you go.
like it, but you should listen to it at least once. Um, Lord, that's so tough, man.
Well, you got one down. That's a good one.
Mm,
Maybe Coachella, right?
Joe Bonamassa.
Okay.
I'd love to
Okay.
mix that guy.
Awesome.
And mm, maybe you two.
There we go.
Just
That's fine.
just for the you two or Coldplay, for the textures that they create with their instruments.
Sure.
Like it's just uh, that's how one of the ways I used to fall asleep in Houston was listening to Coldplay's X and Y album.
Yes, and I do remember that.
Uh,
I do remember
uh,
that.
a close fourth would be Creed and Nickelback.
Creed. Hey, I saw Scott Stapp back up doing his thing again. Like he has a
Yeah,
band and
man.
they're like doing their
He's
thing and
gotten
they're touring
he's
and they're
gotten
doing all that.
clean, and now Creed's gotten popular again. It was like their
Well,
best album was My Own Prison, but
well, sure. Well, sure. I mean, but it's like with
I'm
music,
kidding.
everything
I don't
comes
really
around.
want to mix Creed, but
I know you don't. I know your
it'd be
heart.
a
You. Well, another thing that people might not know is that when we were roommates together with a few other guys, I would there be, maybe we had a long day or you had a hard day or whatever, and you would sit there and you'd be like, man, Blake, hey man, can you just, I know this. I remember the first time. I do remember the first time you said, Blake, I don't think this doesn't sound weird, but can you just kind of play a little guitar for me? And I went, yeah, sure. I grab my guitar, I play it, and like you fall asleep like whatever 20, 30 minutes later, and I'm just playing and I'm thinking, man, he's out. So
Yeah.
I put my guitar down. So we had we had bunk beds and I had my bed, and I put my guitar down, and I was exhausted. I mean, I was just tired. Put my guitar down, facing up, and I think the next morning I woke up in a rush because I was late to work, and I turned
No.
and I fell off my bed, and my butt hit the guitar. Guitar
Smashed it.
was gone. It
That was
was
that Takami, or was that a Seagull or a
that was
Takamine?
a Seagull. I bought my first like kind of like semi beginner, well not better than a little bit better than the beginner acoustic, and I had nothing to play with. I had no guitar, and luckily someone let me borrow their Larrivee for a few months until I could
Yeah.
save up
Yeah.
enough money. And then I was thinking, hey, and the guy was like, hey, can I have my Larrivee back? And I was like, wait a minute, I thought I was keeping, I thought I
Right.
was keeping
I thought
that.
that was a, I thought this was, can you take a love offering out for me to buy a Larrabee?
You know,
Yeah, dude, those are beautiful guitars.
yeah, Larravees are great. We
That's
had,
the thing
yep.
that's interesting for me is, as an audio engineer, I mean, I can play like your root notes on a bass, and I can play G C D E A on a guitar, but that's about it. And so I'm always fascinated when finger picking to me is like one of the things I just go, how do you even do that? Like,
Mm,
how do you even practice long enough to then do that? What's
yep.
interesting is, as an audio engineer, I can hear it and go, that's not right. Something's not right. I don't know what it is, but you're not doing it right.
Well, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, let's be real honest. It's a hard. It's playing anything's difficult. But I even look at guys now, and we were just at a live show, and I looked at this guy, and I was like, man, how is he? I can't even do the style of finger picking, and
I'll, t-
it's an art, man.
I want to add, I want to take out you two and put Tommy Emmanuel as my third.
Yes, and the
I got to
crowd
do it. I got to
crowd
do
goes
it.
wild.
To do monitor. I got to do monitors for him
Mm,
in my hometown, and when he played Initiation, the first time I ever heard it was, I was like, there's no way that man is playing one guitar. There's no way.
right, right.
And then I saw it live and went, I got to figure out how he's doing it. And then that's when I figured out he's using, well, at the time he was using an Alesis MIDI verb and a delay unit to get that sound. And I think that's what it is when I hear something, I'm fascinated by it, and I want to know, how did they do that?
Mm.
How did they accomplish that? I mean, it's one of the most amazing performances I've ever seen in my life.
So who do you think right now is doing just like live engineering, doing it well? Like who are some guys that you're
Oh,
like, hey, this guy, this guy, this guy? Who is it?
I mean, one of the guys I look up to is Dave Rat. His ability to explain what's going on. There's another. Um, I butcher his last name, but they call him Ralphie in the biz. Um, he 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 just I've seen several mixes, or heard several mixes of his live from venue to venue, because our friend was the lighting designer, and I
Right.
went to different venues, and they don't travel with their own PA, but no matter the PA that they're on, their show was consistent. And it's just like, how are you doing this so consistently? I mean,
Mm,
it's one thing to tour with your own PA and get consistent sound. It's another thing to walk in one day, you're on a Meyer Leopard rig, and then the next day you're on JPL Vertex, or uh, something that just sounds completely different. That because every box has its own voice. But um, I'm I'm partial to Meyer, because that's my main line of work, was live event, like corporate live event production,
hmm
and learning the ropes of phase alignment, time delay, all those different things that go into it. um, complex system design. It's fun.
Um, so we talk a lot about on this podcast just about people who, man, who are kind of in the trenches, who are working hard, and you and I have had so much conversation. I think it's because we worked in the churches, we've done stuff like that, front of house, back of house, just seeing what happens behind the curtain. Um, and so, man, as we kind of wrap up our time today, I want to ask you, um, what what would you tell somebody that is in the thick of it, who is serving somewhere, really anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a church, but just
Mm,
anywhere. Because I know you've lived it, like you've worked it. We tonight we've talked a lot about just about sound in general. You've kind of shared some things. We could go on for hours. We really could,
literally.
but you literally. But you know, you've also done that part of, hey, I'm doing this every week. I'm preparing. I'm working on, um, whatever it is, service, a venue, um, and you traveled for a long time doing that as well. So, um, how can you encourage someone who's doing that now, that just needs a little hope in their life? What would you tell them?
Uh, um, Burnout is real, and you have to protect yourself from it. You have to set the boundaries. Um, you know, just because you get the phone. I mean, and this is even in the live world. Um, Especially for freelancers, you feel like if I turn down that gig to stay home and spend time with my wife for these 3 days that I would be out, well, they may not call again. I think it's networking and finding those companies and or churches that recognize that, hey, we can't we can't not use isn't the right word,
Mm-hmm.
but that burnout is real and you got to protect yourself, um, or else it'll become all consuming and then you just get bitter about it. I went through that. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, it was really tough. It makes you become jaded towards it can make you
Yeah.
become jaded towards the church or to the job you're at. Um, so that, and find a mentor, like find
Wow.
somebody that you know isn't annoyed by your questions. That's the best way to put it. I'm never annoyed by questions. I would
Mm-hmm.
rather you ask. um, I actually had an incident that happened when I first started at this production company. They told me, hey, take this Socopex, which Socopex is this big fat connector that has 6 circuits of electricity running through it. And they said, hey, plug that in. Well, I go to the power distro and I'm like, okay, that looks like that. That looks like the female version of that. Plug it in. So I did. And I sent 208 volts down to front of house. And luckily, all of the gear had fuses in it. Um, but had it been, I don't know, 5 years prior, I would have blown up $40,000 worth of gear in an instant. And that was the
Mm-hmm.
moment I said, if you don't know, ask. I'll
Mm-hmm.
never I'll never get upset with somebody for asking the question
Yeah.
if you don't know. Just but it's I've got a guy working for me now that the very first day I said, "Hey, look, man, I will never ever get upset at you for asking, hey man, I don't know what to do here, or I don't know how this works. Can you show me?" I'll never be upset with that. But
Yeah.
if you go do something and then try to hide it and cover it up, it muckies the water, or what's, man, I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
talk.
No, I got you. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say be inquisitive. Um, if you're not in the church, go. One of the places I worked at a bar here when I was 16 years old, doing red dirt country. Um, and found a guy there, and just you ask questions, but be
Mm-hmm.
respectful of their time, and
Yeah.
don't ask them questions in the middle of loadout. like they're
Yeah.
trying to get out.
Trying to get home.
You know?
Well, I love that, man. I love that. I love what you said. You said burnout's real. You said find a mentor. I think that's real important, and someone that can pour into you, who doesn't mind the questions. And man, that is so good to hear. I think that's important for whoever. If you're listening today and you're like, man, I just need someone. Find a mentor. There's someone, that can help you. And
you're more than welcome to if anyone on this, give
yeah,
them my email address. I'll answer questions
yeah.
anytime.
And if you can't find them, you just Google King of Country. When you see King of Country,
you
come
won't
up,
find anything for that, brother.
if you see
won't
King of
find
Country
anything.
coming up,
No.
you've got to the right man, and this guy
I
is going to
can't-
help you.
I still can't believe you brought this up. That was, dude.
I love it. Matt Rogers. Hey, man, before we leave, I want to tell you, buddy, that what you do is important. Your friendship is so valuable. One thing I was thinking about you today, and one thing I just love about just knowing you is that your sincere passion and heart for whatever you do, you pour into it. And you actually really care. Not really. I mean, the production's a production, but you really care about the people and the person you're working with or working for, the artist or whoever the company. And man, I think that's so important, Matt. And man, we want to encourage you today and tell you we love that.
man.
We love that about you. There's many more traits. Again, the good look, the beard. I mean, there's many more. The King of Country once again. I mean, you can't you can't get away from the King of Country. He'll find you. But hey, man, thanks for being on.
One of
Yeah.
my favorite quotes of all time
Yeah.
was posted in our office in the production company. It was, "A flawless show doesn't have to be a fantasy." And it's this drive for excellence that whatever you're doing, do it to the best that you can and continually learn. I mean, that's it.
Man, I love that. Man, that's beautiful. Hey, listen, if you're still listening, you're still looking here at the Unsung Podcast, make sure you check out everything online. You subscribe, you follow us. Again, we are on all the major platforms. And once again, Matthew Rogers, King of Country, salute you. Man, thank you for taking time to talk with us. You are the true King of Country. We appreciate you taking time.
I appreciate it, Blake.
All right, buddy.
No longer dead to this place that's around him. He's lightning fed.
We want to thank beautiful contributors for allowing us to use their music for the Unsung Podcast. You can support them by going to any platform, anywhere you listen to music, and purchasing and listen to their music. They also might have some vinyl or CD still available. You can reach out to them, but support beautiful contributors.